Welcome to Lee County Pod on this fine Wednesday morning. Our host today is Pete Malidnik. Pete, would you please introduce our guest today and let's start the pod.
Thank you, Jack. Today we're with Gary D. Grossman, and I've got three of his poetry books sitting right beside me here, and that's what we're here to talk about today, Gary and his life and his art. So welcome to our podcast, Gary.
Thank you, Pete. And Jack.
And just to start off with, Gary, I have a couple of questions here. With your background, not only your academic background, but as a way of life, how does being a scientist shape your poetry or figure in with your poetry?
I think most people don't realize that science and poetry have similar goals, and that is to look at the world and perhaps explain phenomena in both seeing something others haven't seen before or providing a unique explanation for something that people do see but kind of walk by without thinking about much. And so the way scientists are trained, at least those that study organisms, we're trained to observe. I mean, one of the stresses of the training is observational power, and of course that's true for poetry as well. I mean, poets are observers, and again, you want to notice something that people haven't seen before, or you want to explain something that in a unique way, via metaphor or via simile or just via descriptive language.
Yeah, interesting, because I know you have a lot of imagery in your different poems that pertain to nature and also creatures of the water, ocean, lakes and rivers and streams, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, I write about everything alive, from trees to bad storms and I guess storms aren't alive, although they certainly seem to be at times. Uh, Anything that's in the living world is an interesting subject for me. And the poems that I've chosen to read today, when we get to that stage of the podcast, are all ones in which there's a scientific twist. So it will hopefully answer your question about or your interest in the interaction and similarities between science and literature.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and read go ahead, take one and go ahead and read it to us.
Okay.
Perhaps we can go ahead and do a quick little overview of it.
All right. So this is from my latest book, which was published last year and is available on Amazon.
Got it right here.
Yeah, that's it.
We can follow along.
And this is a poem called Cohabitation.
Okay.
Moths, unnerving as a loose power line flailing the jello air with high voltage, as it is their randomness that frightens, erratically bouncing up to down, right to left, northeast to southwest. I miss SWAT after SWAT, as if these small powdery planes had ESP or echolocation. I've lived years with these carpet and clothing moths, Trichophaga, Tinea, and Tineola, gnawers of suits and carpets, shearing stitches like the anti-seamstress. Not wanting to bomb the house, we coexist, Latvia and Russia, as I rocket off the couch while watching Jimmy Kimmel. trying to forecast the spins and barrel rolls of this latest Lepidopteran dogfighter. My weapon, hand or blue plastic swatter. Sometimes the rush of success. Then I lick talc-dusted fingers, erasing the chalky corpse from the ecru living room wall. Next morning, I opened my t-shirt drawer only to unveil two tiny holes in my AFTFest 2015 shirt. The one perfectly aged, sweet as a baby's bum, and I reckon that moth-human interactions are eternal as sunrise in the east. An unwinnable war against survivors of the age of insects, unless I'm willing to invoke the nuclear option. But the holes are small, and few will notice.
Very good. Nice to be able to read along with you here, Gary. When did you write that one?
When did I write it? Well, the book was published in 2025, and that poem was published maybe a year before. So
Yeah.
2024, maybe early 2025.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it certainly shows and tells us things about moths that we don't ordinarily think of, although the effect, you do see those little holes from time to time and wonder, oh, where do they come from? And your poem answers that.
I think, first of all, that was an easy read. Everything fit together, and it just, puts that conflict into, no, it's comical in many respects, but it's also makes the point that irregardless, we are going to be dealing with nature. We're going to be encountering nature even in an urban environment, even within what we believe to be shelter from the elements. I think it catches our attention in a way that if you left out the scientific terminology, it would fall flat. To me, it would fall flat if you didn't use the scientific names for the moth.
I, you know, I think Peter gets this. Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Yeah.
So that's that. I don't know if you were a teacher or not, Jack, but
No,
I
no,
do.
not in any formal sense.
Yeah, I do. I like it when I teaching. It sounds too pedantic, but I do like it when I can put new things into my poems, things that people might not be familiar with. And you said it's an easy poem. I guess I interpreted that as the language. You were saying the language was accessible,
Yes.
and and that's how I write. I mean, I do write, especially now after about 10 years of publishing poems. I do write in a more lyrical style than I did originally, and perhaps more than this poem is. It's really narrative. Um, but I don't mind having the reader have to work a little bit, but I don't like opaque poetry. I don't like guessing, making the reader play a guessing game. When I say I don't mind making them work, I mean I like to write poems that are provocative, thought-provoking. Um, so so anyway, but I'm not I'm not a John Barrowman or who was John Ashford. These poets that even people who have a master's in poetry are scratching their head after reading the poem and saying, I have no damn idea what that was about.
Mm-hmm. Gary, one question that we came up with last week, Jack and I spent a good bit of time brainstorming, and there's this. Have you ever experienced a poem that challenged your perceptions of reality as you were writing it?
Wow.
I think that was Jack's question.
Yeah. Uh, well, I usually don't write when I'm stoned, so I guess the answer to that question is no. The short answer. I would like to think. I mean, it's not like it's not like I left my body or anything like that, but I would say that, and I've already said it, so I hope I'm not getting redundant. I would say that my goal is, in a sense, to take people not out of their body, but out of their everyday perceptions.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh, there are times when I'm writing a piece that, and then that what spurred the question is that there are times that when I'm writing a piece, it goes in a direction that I had not anticipated. And when I'm done with that piece, it's like, where did that come from? And why
Yeah,
did it form in that way? Because I've had
right.
it happen on multiple occasions when I start out with the first thought, and I'm racing towards the end of it, but the end doesn't wind up where I thought it would originally end.
Right, right.
Okay,
So,
there's a twist in the story, if you will.
yeah, so I would say that, and this is something, and I'm sure you folks listen to other podcasts, and this is a question that Tim Green always asks on the Rattlecast, and
Uh-huh.
I've actually thought about this for quite a while, and the short answer again is yes, that happens to me occasionally, but I'm not. Uh, but I'm pretty purposeful about my writing. So most of my poems, I run every day, and as I run, that's kind of my idea generating
Right,
time.
right.
And so I'll take my phone out and I'll make a little vocal record of something that strikes my
Hmm.
eye as a subject for a poem, and then I'll put that in my in my poetry
Right.
file with a title. And so yes, on occasion I've started out thinking a poem was about one thing and ended up in a totally different place. But not all that often. I'm a little more purposeful, and I'm also not, another thing that some poets talk about is this. What is it? There's some little saying like first is best.
Okay.
Like you just get it out and write it down and then you never touch it again. And I've just had way too much editorial experience
Uh-huh.
to treat my work that way.
Uh-huh.
I'm almost the opposite. Like I'm even revising poems that have been published if I think
Sure.
I can improve them. And I don't know, maybe it was Philip Levine. It was some well-known poet who's now dead, of course, that said, poems are never finished, just abandoned. And that always seemed so true to me. It was like, all right, I give up. I'm done with this thing.
Like we three, they are works in progress.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you find thinking of process, Gary, do you read your poems aloud as you're writing them, or right after you finish writing a draft of a poem, do you read it out loud?
I read it while I'm writing it. I mean, if I am really interested in sound, and again, I guess I would track my evolution as a poet with starting out in fairly straight narrative, but interesting narrative, and then becoming more lyrical, and included in that is trying to write things where sound is a really interesting
Mhm.
Right.
portion of, and because it's something that grabs the reader. And of course it's hard to do because it's like the nursery rhymes. It's hard to do without becoming trite and saccharine. So when not only do I read them when I'm done, when I'm trying to find the right word choice
Right.
in writing, I read a line or a stanza then.
Okay.
So yeah, sound is super important to me.
Yeah. Would you go ahead and read us a second poem, please?
Sure. I'll read you another one from the book. Let's see.
If you could tell
And this
what,
is just a fairly straight nature poem.
which page, Gary, so I can follow
27,
along. 27,
right. And
Bloodroot and Marsh.
that's right. And
Yeah.
so I normally don't give any preamble, but you all are in the Southwest and I'm in the Southeast. And bloodroot is the first flower that one sees in springtime in the forest. Regardless of the year, it's the first flower seen on my daily hikes, pushing through every November's abandoned duvet of tan and umber, a patchwork of ash, oak, maple, and hickory. I pause, eyelids unspooled like a tired window blind, and inhale the forest's green anticipation. Willingly, this could be my last breath, absorbing the effortless geometry of these 8 ivory petals, rising from leaves mimicking round Japanese fans from the 1840s. How is it that small perfections can both break and reassemble us, as if we were Adam or Eve on day 1 of the completed world, mouths agape at the very first ivory petals?
Nice.
If you see my head down, I'm leaning toward the speaker here. There's got to be a way. I'll get some tech person to make my volume louder because it's the same at home. I listen, and you and I have Zoomed, fairly recently too, and I'm leaning to hear better. And I'm sure there's some way to get that fixed on this little computer. Now we're in a coffee shop, and if you hear anything in the background, it's the familiar espresso machine, and of course you have espresso in your poems.
I do. Well, I saw the little coffee thing on the wall behind Jack's head.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, you're either coffee lovers or you're in a cafe.
Oh
So
yeah, well, yeah. Well, a little of both. See, my other question was, how does being an outdoorsman influence your writing? I would say, how does being a coffee lover? Although you could say we could go to wines too, but with the outdoors, do you want to say more? I know you have already spoken eloquently about the outdoors, but any more in regard to your poetry?
um, I'm not writing as many straight nature poems as I used to, and I mean I find again, I don't know, in the last 5 years I've probably published 150 poems, and it's true for a variety of subjects, not just nature. uh, I kind of feel like I've exhausted a lot of those subjects. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't want to write 5 poems about red buds blooming,
Yeah.
even
Right.
though it's
Well,
a miracle. But what I do find is that I'm incorporating nature and things like that in poems that basically have other subjects.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know for me, so much of what I write is determined by, well, various things. It depends on time, place, something I observe, something I remember. There's no telling, and that's probably as good as not being able to predict the future. You know, I don't want to be
Yeah.
able to, because it would be something different if it, I don't know. I just think there's no one way to write poetry. If there were, it would be something else.
Right. I mean, also have to say, and I have two daughters. One, well, they're both in their 30s. One just had our first grandchild, and so I actually have
Yeah.
some poems to read that are, you know, how science and my grandson mix.
Hmm.
Uh, but I have a great sadness. You know, the Germans have this great word Weltschmerz, which means world sorrow or world pity, and I feel, and both of you have gray hair, so you must feel somewhat like this as well. The world that we saw, especially growing up, our kids and grandchildren will not see. And
Yeah.
I feel that loss very deeply emotionally. And so, in some respects, it's almost hard for me to write about straight nature, you know, without kind of devolving into, we're not going to have the tree, you know, the Joni Mitchell song, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's kind of the wonder of nature poems I've mostly written already, and I'm not sure I want to write the loss of nature poems yet.
Yeah. And labels are a double-edged sword, if I can use the metaphor or cliche, whatever. They're convenient, but they can also limit. I wouldn't, like I don't think of you as a Gary Grossman, nature poet, is with us today. No, I mean, that would be very limiting, I think, even though
Yeah,
you probably know more about nature than anybody else that I know, poet
well,
wise or
right.
in life.
Well, I mean, my goal as a poet is to write an emotionally moving poem about shoelaces. I mean, I want to be able to write about, in my craft, I want to be able to make something as ordinary as a shoelace resonate emotionally with the reader. So no, I'm not a nature poet. I mean, I know a lot about nature, but that's not my goal, nor the label that I would put on. And I'm not sure what what label I would put on
I'll
myself.
tell you something. Um, this is almost 2 years ago now. I was watching a program on YouTube, and the setting was in a place I was familiar with, um, in the far eastern part of the state of Maine, and it involved uh, like, it's not a hatchery, because a hatchery isn't a hatchery mostly like outdoors.
Well, there are indoor ones as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
so there are aquaculture
See,
operations
what I
that,
what I saw was in a place Lubec, Maine, and these people were getting fish ready to sell, in the market. And
okay,
and it was a big place, and it looked like a really hard job. And years
yeah,
ago, I knew someone. Um, Lubec is right across the water from Campobello, where FDR had a summer home, and for a little while, I dated somebody that worked in I thought of it as a fish factory. I
yeah.
was never inside it, but when I was writing a poem about Campobello, and I said I really thought about asking you, but somehow I worked it out where I didn't have to bother you with my
Yeah,
uh, question. Yeah.
right. So hatcheries, just to clarify, hatcheries are mostly indoor operations, but what you're describing is not a hatchery. It's what's called a grow out operation.
Huh.
So it's where they're growing the fish for market. And those can be indoors or outdoors. The most famous outdoor ones are these pens that they raise Atlantic salmon in, you know, that now when you and I were growing up, salmon was a luxury, and now it's now it's in every menu in every
That,
restaurant,
that's true. Yeah.
and it's directly because of the salmon aquaculture. So
Huh. Boy. I just like the fish without any of the bones in it. You know, I'm one of those people, I hate fish with bones in it. But
you're a fillet man, huh?
yes, yes, yeah. And I know our mutual friend Richard Jordan up in Massachusetts. He's a big angler, and you as well. I'm sure you two have that bond
Yeah,
because
we
he's got
send fish poems to each other.
yeah, yeah, and he's got a chapbook of them. Yeah, that I just
Right.
wrote a review of. But thinking of reviews and writing again, Gary, who do you like to read especially?
You know, this is a shameful thing to admit, but again, on all these poetry things, people say, "Oh, you have to read, 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 read." I, I mean, I do have people that I really like to read. Albert Goldschmidt is one. I like Mary Oliver. I like Richard's work. Scott Ferry, Alex Rohn, what's Dante's last name? Dante de something.
Huh,
Dante de Santo, I think
okay.
his name is. Yeah. No, Dante de Stefano. Here's Richard's
Oh
chapbook.
yeah, that's the book that I
Yeah.
called my review "The Line versus the Line." I thought I was very clever, and luckily it got picked up. It got picked up by a um, this place, the Cider Press Review, and it turned out that when I went on their site, I realized that I had known one of their editors in the early 1970s. So I got connected
Wow.
with this person, and he's sending me a chapbook now of his
Yeah.
poems.
You know, who else do I like? I mean, I like Ada Limon, all the famous poets, Dorian Lowe. Uh,
Walt Whitman, those
I,
moderns.
I'm
Well,
not much of a classics guy.
yeah,
I
Walt Whitman's not the modern. I guess I meant William Carlos Williams, maybe
Oh,
with
I love so I
Stephen.
love the Imagist poems like
Yeah,
William Carlos. I mean, I probably memorized the red wheelbarrow, the red wagon, whatever the name of
that's
that.
it, the wheelbarrow.
Yeah, when I was a teen, and of course we read the Plums poem at our wedding,
Uh-huh.
as every writer has to
Don't
do.
touch those plums. They're so
Yeah.
nice and delicious. Yeah.
So, who else? Francesca, what's Francesca's? There,
Penosa.
yeah, there are just so many poets that are good these
Oh
days.
yeah.
It's hard. I do read, but I try to write a lot more. I mean, I've spent a lifetime reading, really. So, although not mostly poetry, but uh, I feel like I'd rather use my time writing
True,
than
true, 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 true.
reading.
Yeah, I read fiction addictively. It helps keep me sane. It's a healthy escapism. I'll
Yeah.
put it that way. Um, I've noticed what do we have, a 10-minute warning?
We got about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, uh, Gary. So to ask you this and then ask you to read some poems again, how has your writing changed over the past 5 to 10 years? In a way, you've already addressed this question, but if you can add any more
Sure,
to
sure.
that.
Yeah, like I said, I started out, thinking and enjoying writing fairly straight narrative poems. Although, when I say that, I never wrote, I mean, for me, the distinction between fiction or nonfiction and poetry is I don't ever write, I almost never write in complete sentences. So, so even my narrative poetry was imaginative, I would say, ego aside, in terms of construction and word usage. And then I really liked lyricism and imagism, and so I kind of segued into having poems that were more lyrical in their approach to things. And again, you listen to the knowledgeable poets and the teachers, and many of them say, I don't know what lyricism is, but I know it when I see it. And so I'm not going to really define it in, for my own work, other than sound has become more important. Images, I let images stand on their own. I am interested in things like anaphora and repetition in my poetry. So if I wanted to use a judgy word, I'd say it's become more sophisticated.
Okay.
I'd like to think it's become more that it has greater depth.
Just in general, and I'm generalizing here, of course, um, your lines lately seem a little tighter as opposed to a little looser. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I like to write tightly, and I find myself I'd like to read a couple poems before we go, and
Certainly, yeah,
then I'll see what you think about
Okay.
whether they're looser or tighter. But
sure.
I do like to write where there are no at the end I say there are no extra words here.
Right.
Go ahead, please, and read us a couple.
Okay, so these are three poems, all about my first grandson, first and only grandson, but that also incorporate aspects of science. So this is called Time Travel. He looks at me with 4-month-old olive eyes, focusing and unfocusing, a camera lens on automatic. And I realize he's a DNA Matryoshka doll containing every century. In Hebrew, we say Lador Vador, from generation to generation. And I imagine stepping through this genetic wormhole to open and scan the code of each smaller doll, only to have the last infinitely small baby slip through my fingers. In the now, there is just us, changing diapers, pumping milk, urging burps, waiting for that first smile.
Very good.
Nice.
And this is another poem. And so you talked about looser or tighter. You know,
Ah,
I do write several of the poems that we read from the book were quatrain and or prose poem, single block of text, prose poem kind of thing. So I do like to vary the visual aspect of the poem a lot, and that's another part of the evolution, I think, to perhaps a deeper, at least less boring craft. So this is called Boyle's gas law, which, if you took physics,
this is the one you
is
just held up.
no, that was time travel, the one I
Oh,
just
okay,
read.
yeah, with the
Yeah,
shorter lines, yeah.
yeah. So here's
Oh,
this
boy.
one.
Okay,
Okay.
Uh, Boyle's gas law. Within a closed system, pressure is inversely proportional to the volume. 10 pounds, 2 ounces of pressure. Nolan turns from blue-veined Veneto marble to Portuguese red in seconds as methane bullies about his month-old small intestine. And his knees pull up like a grasshopper investing in the next hop. Expanding gas shakes hands with famotidine, then dissipates like a wispy sunshine on December afternoon. Our own new tale of two cities. It is the best of times, the worst of times.
Good one.
And then this last one you can see as well as tercets that are
Right.
that are offset. So this is called uncertainty. And so all of these poems in my mind have a component of science,
Uh-huh.
physiology, uh, being able to utilize my science chops in a way, that's poetic. Uncertainty. Baby Nolan is refluxing at night, so Barb drove 7 hours through the remaining ice to help daughter Rose, while I shepherded our home through this latest bomb cyclone event. Each new storm is a hellion, painting everything, standing or prone with a femur cracking ice. That was poorly read. Each new storm is a hellion, painting everything, standing or prone with femur cracking ice. For 6 days, the sky has been nothing more than dirt-caked insulation from the nearby tract of bankrupt condos, and that weighted feeling makes me wonder when Barb will return. I miss her the way a Chevy 409 misses leaded gas, or high thread count sheets yearn for just showered skin. But the next set of steroid storms lurk just over the ridge, in the newly washed hills where sun kisses earth goodnight.
Wow. Very good.
And all of these are on, they're in my next book, which hopefully will be accepted by a publisher soon. So
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Well, those are, I'm glad that to hear those recent ones, Gary. And do we have more, a little more?
We got just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
do you have another question, or shall I read another poem?
Yeah, go ahead. Certainly, yeah, for another poem, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna read another poem from the recent book.
Okay.
And this is called Language Arts. And Peter, you've heard this poem before, so. I'm considering how things classify either as lewd or not lewd. Such a chewy word, a mouthful headlining tongue, lips, and jaws, a playful nip from incisors. And colors, pink is lewd, coral is lewd, as are rose and raspberry. But fuchsia and magenta, no. They bellow in a fake oh kind of way. Are you finished yet? Just too much, overdone like a cut of Wagyu cooked well rather than rare. Lewdness is color that pants rapidly or oscillates without volition. The wet whisper of wind over teeth as breath draws in and is pushed out, mirroring tidal flows. Subtle but hot. And odors, musk, lewd. Dried breast milk, unlewd. 6-day-old sheets, lewd. Toasted bread, unlewd. Though none of this walks my mind as my fingers slowly flow over the unstrung pearls of your spine.
Good. Yeah, that's a good one to conclude with, Gary. And certainly we look forward to seeing these recent poems